What is the worst example of spoiled children you've ever seen? A kid around 8 grabbing clothes in a clothing store and throwing them around while yelling crap. All this is freaking crap. His parents found it funny and were laughing. I was only 12 years old when I saw that, but I wanted to smack that brat around. It was unbelievable. Too bad you didn't hit him. Being 12, you could have gotten away with it. When I was 14 I worked at Tim Hortons. My manager, the store owner, was given the store from her daddy that owned about 5 in the city. For her birthday one year, if I'm remembering right she was in her early 30s at the time, her dad bought her a brand new Ford F-150. All the bells and whistles completely paid off. To which she replies, yeah, it's nice I guess. I was just hoping for something a bit better. I think we worked for the same owner. My cousin had a Christmas list. He got everything on the list, except one thing. I got the one thing for Christmas that he wanted. My uncle, his father, took it from me to give it to him because he was crying that he didn't get that one thing on his list. It was the only thing on my list that I got. From personal experience, my cousin grew up so incredibly spoiled. He once stole $20 of Christmas money given to me by my grandparents on Christmas Eve. He refused to give it back and then we got into a brawl. When our parents separated us and got our sides of the story, his mother would only say, well, you shouldn't have left it out. Wouldn't even make him apologize or say a word to admonish my cousin. No matter what he did, she always praised him and found a way to blame his actions on his victims. The first time I ever heard my mother swear was when she called him a little crap. This kid got the newest iPhone, but it was the wrong color, white instead of black, so his parents were buying him a new one. His mom wanted the one that was the wrong color. She wanted the white one, but after a long time of keeping her on the hook and saying he'd give it to her, he gave it to his girlfriend instead. His parents still got him the new, correctly colored iPhone. What a frick. I worked as an au pair for a family in Italy with 2 girls who were 6 and 9 years old. Although some au pair jobs require light housework and some other things, the mom made it clear that my only responsibility was to teach them English. The 9-year-old spoke enough to get by but had problems with grammar and all the exceptions the English language has, and the 6-year-old only knew a few words. The deal was, I had the mornings off until 1 PM when I would walk them home from school. They would do their homework and then I would play with them and teach them English until dinner time. Or so I thought. The girls would do their homework until 9 PM, when dinner was served. This is a normal dinner time in Italy, apparently. Obviously they were getting distracted but their dad was at work and their mom was either absent or assured me that they would be finishing soon. On days where they finished early, they were incapable of playing together. They would hit each other, really hard, for their age, in the face until the other dropped the toy they wanted, which they proceeded to leave on the ground and storm out of the room. I even saw the 6-year-old drop her toy and cover her face when she heard her sister walking down the hall to come into the room. It was unbearable to be around and impossible for any English to be taught. If I was alone with the 6-year-old, she would turn away if I tried to speak English with her. The only reason I found out she knew a few words was when she would snap her fingers and point to the kitchen and say water or cookie. If I tried to tell her how to ask nicely she would just shout for the housekeeper. Dinner time was ridiculous. This family was on the Mediterranean coast, where just about anything could be caught or picked fresh, but the girls were so picky they would refuse to eat anything but white supermarket pasta, the same brand I buy in Canada. One night the girls ran screaming from the table when their housekeeper placed freshly squeezed orange juice in front of them. The mom informed me that these were doctor's orders since they wouldn't eat any fruits or vegetables. I was always under the impression that a lot of kids don't like fruits and veggies, but you give them to them anyway because it's your job to keep them healthy. After dinner they would stay up till midnight or 1 watching TV, until they would have screaming temper tantrums when their mom told them to go to bed. One night I was still up to witness this, and after the tantrums the mom jokingly said to me, and tomorrow it's going to be, oh mom, I'm tired. I wanna sleep in. Yeah, they're 6 and 9 years old. That family was nuts. When I left early I explained to her that I couldn't deal with her kids and she said to me, well, I know my girls are very polite, so it must just be you. After reading this I am now breathing significantly heavier. probably the call I responded to, where a 13-year-old girl stabbed her mother in the stomach 6 times with a butcher knife because she wasn't allowed to sleep over with her boyfriend. Similar story, my cousin, 15 or so at the time, tried to kill our grandma who lived with her and her mother because she couldn't have her boyfriend move in. Her mom said it was because there wasn't enough room, so her logical response was to kill grandma to make room. I work in a sports bar that specializes in wings. People let their kids run around our restaurant like we are going to babysit them. I have a few stories. One time I was hostessing, so I had a good view of our front doors. Out of nowhere I see 2 siblings around the ages of 4 and 7 sprint up to the glass door, and I crap you not, lick them. And it wasn't just a little tongue touch either. They pressed their hand up to the glass, stuck their little tongues out and licked from the bottom to as high as they could reach. Their parents followed shortly behind them and just shook it off. When they came in, I was too awestruck, disgusted to properly utter out, "Hi, welcome to insert restaurant name. Will you be dining in today or carrying out?" I just sort of stared. Another time, I was still hostessing. A kid sprinted up to me and he was covered in honey barbecue sauce. Like it was dripping off his hands and it was all over his face. The stuff was on his ears. I asked him if he wanted to know where the bathrooms were. He replied, "Nope," and proceeded to rub his hands and face all over my thighs. I'll never forget his tiny little sausages groping all around my thighs. Before I could even say anything, the little kid darted away into oblivion. No parents to be found. Another time, a group of 25 adults and 15 kids ranging from ages 3-11 were camping in our restaurant. They had already been there for about 3 hours and the kids were very restless. They started a game of freeze tag that spanned across the restaurant. Base was at, you guessed it, my hostess stand. They were climbing all over the tables and jumping into the booths, even booths that had people dining in them. They were yelling and screaming and being obnoxious. We started to receive a lot of complaints. My manager asked the table of adults to control their kids. They got mad but begrudgingly asked their kids to sit down. The kids screamed and cried and whined for the next 15 minutes. They then resumed their tag game. Finally, one of the little shoots chased another one of the little shoots into the kitchen. Note: in the state of Texas, it is illegal for people not working at a restaurant to go inside the kitchen. Welp, the kids were not aware that kitchen floors are extremely slippery if you aren't wearing non-slip shoes. They quickly skidded out and hit the floor. Oh, the screams were blood-curdling. They could be heard throughout the restaurant. My manager had had enough. He picked up the little shoots and carried them to outside the kitchen. Then he walked them to their parents, who had more than likely heard the screams but chose to ignore them. My manager asked them to pay their tab and get out and never come back. They raged, but it was glorious. The glory of Buffalo Wild Wings. The Houston suburbia locations are exactly like this. Not exactly a kid, but a spoiled young woman. About 4 years ago, I saw a college classmate repeatedly throw her iPhone on the floor until the phone was destroyed beyond repair. When I asked her about it, she said, "Oh, I always do this when a new model comes out. I'll find an excuse so my dad has to buy me a new one. I've done it since the first edition." Needless to say, I knew to keep away from her. She stopped attending classes one day and I don't even know what she's done with her life. Not a child per se, but an 18-year-old girl I knew had a massive hissy fit because her mom was taking her on holiday to New York instead of Disney World and she wouldn't be able to drink. She ended up screaming down the phone that if she wasn't going to Disney, she wasn't going at all. You can't drink underage in Disney World either. My sister was the prime example of a bratty child, sadly. My parents divorced when she was 4, and she was the only child to live with my mom and be raised by her. Some prime examples include, my mom and stepdad brought her a new expensive PC. She wanted a Mac and the PC wasn't acceptable. She filled up a big cup of water from the kitchen and dumped it on the keyboard of her new laptop PC and demanded a Mac. This ruined the laptop instantly. She was quite proud of her featuring. She got an old used Mac about 3 months after the incident. She was 16. She cancelled an expensive vacation to Florida that my stepdad spent about 10 grand on booking. My sister, about 15-16 at the time, refused to go. She wouldn't say why, just that she wouldn't. My mom and stepdad just took it as she wasn't serious at the time and just ignored her. 3 days beforehand she refused to go. complete with kicking, screaming and hitting. They realized they couldn't get her on a plane like that and couldn't leave her alone. So they cancelled vouchers for the flights they never got to use. The resorts, tours, and tickets for multiple things turned out to be non-refundable. On multiple occasions she threw away her entire wardrobe, claiming she didn't like them anymore. The next day she would demand new clothes because she didn't have any. My mom gave in every time. She did this at least twice a year. The last time she did it, my mom didn't give in as much and only brought her about 10 outfits afterwards. My mom wanted to give my sister a birthday present of laser hair removal when she turned 17. Complete with legs and bikini area. Expensive to say the least. My sister refused to do it unless the doctor's office would do her butthole as well. The doctor's office declined and she never gave in and never got laser hair removal. She stole money from others and manipulated my family into buying thousands of dollars of MAC makeup for her. She wouldn't wear it unless it was MAC. For those who don't know, MAC is an expensive makeup brand. She made state in high school for cross country almost every year but refused to go to practice. She got worse every week and really only showed up for meets. She was crazy talented and still qualified for state without even practicing. She would go to state every year, not get first, and then blame everyone around her for losing. This one still makes me sad because she was beyond talented and somehow had more than twice the normal lung size of an average adult and could have easily gotten scholarships and had her college education paid for. Instead, she was too good to practice and chose sleeping all afternoon after school. There are other stories as well if anyone is interested, but those are my favorite. And in case anyone is wondering, I am nothing like my sister. My cousin, I've mentioned her here before, cries and screams to get what she wants, always has. She has several $100s saved up from birthdays and Christmas, but refuses to ever spend it and will obsessively count it to make sure none's gone. She had a crying fit a couple of Christmases ago because my baby sister got more toys. It was her first Christmas, and they told my cousin she didn't get toys because she got big girl presents like a frickin' big screen TV. She cried because it wasn't the electric scooter she wanted. She was 13. She once threw her clothes at my uncle and refused to get dressed because they were inside out and he told her to turn them herself. Refused to sleep in her own room until she was literally a teenager. Won't cut her hair but makes her mom wash it for her. Has every gadget a kid could want but still uses her mom's laptop and won't charge it. Throws fits anytime she won't get her way. It wouldn't bother me as much if my aunt and uncle didn't give in every single time, but they do. Now she's 14 and it's probably too late. They'll regret it when she's still making them wait on her hand and foot at 30. I bet you anything they are regretting it now. I've seen a lot, but a trend seems to be letting children run around restaurants unattended and doing whatever they desire. Can't stand it. A kid disappeared from school back in high school. Found out he stabbed and killed both his parents when they said no to getting him an iPod when they first released. But mom, it's 25% faster than the old one. There was this guy in my childhood. He grew up without his father and his mother tried to do everything for him, so he turned out pretty bad. He had everything, every gaming console, a huge room and stuff. He was allowed to do everything he wants. He was 10 years old and collected knives, smoked cigarettes and drank beer. His mother even came one day into his room and asked for cigarettes, because she apparently didn't want to go to the store. She was really uncomfortable asking it in front of me. He also was allowed to watch P and he played this game Wet, some kind of P strategy game. He was allowed to do everything. He had everything, and today, he must be 26 or 27. He became a rage addict. As far as I know, he smokes that stuff. He's not a big junkie, but definitely not a functioning part of the society. I see him sometimes driving with a bicycle from his mom's old apartment, where she still lives. He probably asked for money. His grandmother lives in the same apartment complex. Another story that just popped into my mind. He wanted a dog, so his mother bought him a wire-haired dachshund. It's actually a dog for old people down here. After a week he was tired of this dog and his grandmother paid him, so that he went out with him. He was like 12, 13 years and his mother put him on his clothes. He basically never mentally matured past the age of 6. That's sad. Myself, unfortunately, I was 18. My parents aren't very well off but were paying for me to go to university. Promised a summer trip, which turned out to be Poland. I flipped out because I didn't deem it fancy enough compared to Italy or somewhere. Had a brilliant time and I'm still ashamed of how ungrateful I was. Please tell me that you've told your parents how much you appreciate them now. My parents have passed away, and I cringe when I think of myself as a child. I wish I could apologize. When I was little, my parents were friends with a couple who had a son about my age. He used to steal toys from me and my brother. When his parents would catch him with something of ours and try to take it away, he'd whine in the most obnoxious voice, "But I want it. Don't you know I want it?" Sometimes he'd break whatever it was to keep it from being taken away. They totally used to let him keep our stuff if none of us noticed first, though. I remember going to his house and finding my things there. I remember his dad being a big thief too and bragging to my dad about walking out of the store with a freaking chainsaw. My older sister slapped my mom in the face because the car she got was a piece of shitty. It was a $30,000 Honda. I see nothing wrong with that car. I'd take that car straight back to the dealership. Once I was in the airport, in Santiago, Chile, and I always go to the same place to eat something after the flight. I go to the Dunkin' Donuts at the end of the airport. I was eating a sandwich and a donut when the show started. Three American brothers, something like 15, 12 and like 7 years old, began to throw food, shout very loud, run, misbehave, and the father just laughed about everything. He was really amused with everything. All the rest of the people was really uncomfortable, but no one said anything because they were tourists. But at the end it was good because suddenly from nowhere I saw a woman appear. The faces of the kids suddenly turned to horror. She was the mother. The father disappear in a second and I swear the woman grew 4 more arms and started to slap to the 3 kids and pull their hair at the same time. I have never saw so many tears at the same time, and they have apologized with everyone, asked for something to clean all the tables from the local, and the next, clear the floor, and the little kid never stopped the river of tears. It was funny to see whole thing. My greetings to the American mom. Sounds like a scene from Malcolm in the Middle. I have an acquaintance who has made her parents' life a living heck, specifically her dad. Besides the usual give me every single thing I want now or I'll hate you forever, she has managed to never work a day in her life and has got him to support her in her drug addiction. She threatened to kill herself if he didn't pay her $20,000 for beauty school, so he did. She never showed up. One time he would pay for her concert tickets, so she slit her wrist. Small cuts just for attention. When her parents had got divorced, she rebelled against her stepmom so hard. If her stepmom was cooking something, but would walk away from the stove, she'd go pour the food in the drain. She would lock her stepbrother in the closet and tell him that her dad was her dad and not to ever talk to him. She would throw fits and cry and run into her dad's lap if he ever fussed her for any of these things. She was 20 years old at the time. We know this couple with 3 children, a 11-year-old girl, an 8-year-old girl, and a 6-year-old boy. The 6-year-old absolutely refuses to wipe his own bottom after using the restroom. He sits on the toilet and yells at the top of his lungs until his mom comes in and wipes him down. One day, his 8-year-old sister says to their mom, "Mom, why doesn't he wipe his own butt? He does it just fine at school." She may be the smartest person in that whole family. I always insisted on wiping my butt, even when I wasn't capable. Somebody else rubbing a piece of toilet paper between my cheeks always made me uncomfortable. Guess I'm just crazy like that. 8-10-year-olds in freaking strollers in the mall. Are you kidding me? This child has legs. Why are you pushing it around? Either A, spoiled child, or B, lazy parenting. Regardless, terrible. My 2-year-old doesn't even ride in the stroller. The spoiled person was my own half brother, but there's a delicious piece of karma at the end that makes it all worth it. Backstory: my mother died when I was 1 year old and my father remarried a few years later. They had a son, and while the woman raising me stated that she treated all of the kids equally, I also have a sister, it was pretty obvious to everyone that it wasn't true. How spoiled was my half brother? While I had to pay for my final 2 years of college, a story too long to tell. My brother's very first car was a BMW M5. He could do no wrong, and even after wrecking the car twice, while high both times, they would just fix the car and give it back to him. One important fact too. While growing up, my parents kept us from seeing our grandparents, including my father's parents, who would have no sides as all of the children were their grandkids. Apparently, all of the grandparents thought that the whole situation was wrong and they had verbalized it many times. So 10 years ago, my brother fights with his wife, goes to a hotel, gets high on whatever and sets his hotel room on fire and dies of smoke inhalation. His wife, who never liked my parents very much, instantly bans them from seeing the grandchildren ever again. I'm gay, so no grandkids from me. Believe me, I've tried to get my BF pregnant, and my sister will not allow my parents to see her children, so poof, they had nothing. I'm a big believer in what goes around comes around, and oh boy, she got hers. A friend of mine was yelling at her dad to hurry up and buy her a washer dryer for her $1,000 a month apartment he paid for. We are no longer friends. Chris, this butthole piece of crap that lived up the street from me. Sucker got everything he wanted and would pout to get his way. If pouting didn't work, he would scold his parents. Freaking scold them like they were wrong. He brought that entitled cocksucker of an attitude with him in everything he ever did. He was real unhappy when life crap on his little "I am so great and I deserve everything" parade. I hated that sucker. Hey man, in my defense, they did get me the wrong color phone. I have a nephew who is a little too spoiled. He's about 6 right now. Reason of being spoiled: divorced parents. Father will buy anything to make him shut up. Mother can't stand him by his needs that the father gave him. He has lots of electronics and toys at a 6-year-old shouldn't have. Not sure what to do without him starting to cry in anger and getting pretty violent. I feel bad for his future classmates and such because I already assume he's going to be a bully to get things his way. Friend of mine is trying a new parenting style. Their 3-year-old gets to pick her bedtime. No naps. Chooses what she wants to eat. If she is misbehaving, maybe she gets a light scolding. It sounds nice on paper to some people, but so far the kid is a nightmare. Grandma changes TV channel. That's my show. Put IT back now. Throws things. Screams constantly. Complete emotional breakdown. When I visited, I had to leave the room because if I didn't, I might have slapped the child. This new parenting style seems a lot like not having a parenting style at all. Let's see. Around 13 or so years ago, my family was visiting family from out of town. My one cousin was playing his GameCube with us. It's been a while, so I can't exactly remember what caused this, but his parents asked him to do something and ignored them and kept playing. When they threatened to take away his GameCube, he started arguing with them, and I think they finally got too tired of arguing and just gave up. I asked him after, "Aren't you worried they will take it away from you later on for not listening to them?" He just told me that he doesn't need to listen to them, and if they tried taking it away from him, he would just break a bunch of their belongings until they gave it back to him. Quite a little crap he was. That is a sick little human being right there. The most spoiled kid I knew was the son of a wealthy Middle Eastern family at a religious camp. He had a sense of entitlement so huge that his parents shipped him a quarter of the way around the world to try to get rid of it. He didn't get any special treatment while there, of course, so it was fun watching his reactions to sleeping in the same cramped dorms and eating the same diarrhea-inducing food as everyone else. Elaborate, as this looks funny. These two kids, brothers about 13 and 11 at the time, would come into the ice cream shop where I worked and order practically everything we offered, and tell us to put it on their dad's tab. On occasion they'd also engage in a water fight next to the sink in the bathroom and leave a huge freaking mess. Once it was a soda bottle fight. We scrubbed sticky sugary fizzy drinks off the floor for an hour. Their parents were filthy rich and horribly unpleasant. I suppose we should have pitied the kids, but boy did we hate those entitled, spoiled, misbehaved little buttholes. A kid was screaming at his mom because her iPad was newer than his. This was while they were on a trip to the Caribbean. My cousin. That must be one of the most spoiled kids I know. Every year on Christmas he would get one new Nintendo DS. All year crapping his parents for more games. When my uncles said no, he went to his grandmother, and there he goes. Brand new games for the little kid. It got worse. A few years, maybe 2, his mother broke his laptop charger. He hit her. He hit his mother because of fricking PC. Now my aunt and uncle are divorced and I suspect it will be worse. I had this girl in my class once who used to say, better to be spoiled than neglected, and dang was she spoiled. It annoyed the heck out of me when she said that. If somebody's spoiled, it doesn't mean they're not neglected. When they aren't children anymore. How many adults in your life are not actually adults but are still just spoiled brats with 30 plus years of experience? People who throw tantrums when they don't get what they want, abuse others because they don't get what they want, never take responsibility, expect others to care for them without ever giving back, no manners, etc. The most heartbreaking is when I see spoiled adult children taking their kids out, screaming at them to behave, and then a minute later are throwing a fit at the barista or cashier. Yes, parents who are frustrated with their rude, bratty children and can't see that their children are mimicking their own bad behavior are infuriating. I work at a summer camp for rich kids. Here's a few quotes. I am throwing a tantrum because I misplaced my iPad this morning. 6-year-old girl. You sound like my housekeeper. 6-year-old girl. Just don't marry a Mexican. 7-year-old girl. When I was 6, my dad got a scholarship to study in the US. We're Malaysians, and my mom had to sell our car to accommodate our move there. We weren't particularly well off. She brought me to a shop to buy me jackets for winter, and after she already paid for the jacket, I saw a red one with a hoodie, so I said I didn't want the one she paid for, but the other one that I just saw. I started crying. Apparently I cried so hard that she gave in and bought me the red one. So I got 2 jackets that day. I'm 32 now, and every time I think about this, I feel the urge to slap my 6-year-old self. Sorry mom. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.